Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a step back in time. At least for me as your host, I'm going to be actually bringing you some content from Hong Kong, a trip that I took a few years ago, but let's just get right there. Without any further ado, let's hop right over to me out in the field in Hong Kong. Today we're shooting on the island of Peng Chau, which is just off of the coast of Lantau Island here in Hong Kong. And when we first got here, it was raining like crazy, but it's not doing too bad now. Maybe we'll get a few other good things going. But it's a great rural island. I don't know that they have any cars here because it wouldn't make sense. Everything is a path like this. People walk, people bike from place to place, and their homes are just tiny little, almost huts, but not really. They're concrete and all that good stuff. But they're nestled up here in the mountains and such like that, and it's really nice, just not what you expect when you come to Hong Kong. So let's head on down the trail and see what we find next. I was just setting up this scene here to photograph this beautiful structure, and then I noticed this snail. So zoom in here and take a look. He's trying to modify a few things, a few settings on my camera, I guess. Anyway, let's get back to shooting. I'm going to actually put my filter on. I'm going to use a polarizer filter, and that will help the greens just come to life. So I'm going to take a few seconds and do that. So this shot, this subject, I absolutely love it because of all the lines, the texture. It's really working all together. Right now I want to talk about lines in an image, and I'm going to get several different framings of this subject as well, but then we're focusing on lighting, so let's just kind of come back from that. So as we are looking at this subject, you know, the vertical lines, the horizontal lines, some angled lines, and I absolutely love this very organic element coming through with its kind of soft S-curvy type line coming in. Put that together with all the texture differences and all the color differences coming together, and it's just a lot of things going on in this image. But let's talk a little bit about what these lines can do for us in an image. With the vertical lines, that is going to give us a lot of strength, a lot of stability, a lot of sense of stability. There's going to be a little more energy in a vertical line. When you have the horizontal lines, in this one, you know, the vertical lines are a lot stronger. When you have these horizontal lines coming through, you have a sense of a lot of relaxed sense in the image. And this image basically just has them all coming together. So you can have potentially a little bit of chaos coming in too. So as we look at other images, we'll look at them and say, you know, here's where horizontals are dominant, here's where verticals are dominant, here's where angles or S curves, C curves are dominant. But in this particular scene, we've got pretty much everything available to us. And I thought that was a good place to start when we talk about lines and what they do for us and how we can utilize them in our image. Now also, as we go through, we're going to have different croppings and different framings of these subjects. And so you'll see the emphasis happening of what's going on with these verticals, the horizontals, so on and so forth as well. So beautiful subject, great old subject, beautiful new life coming forth. Lots of different contrasts happening here as well. The contrasts of whether it's the texture of the paint and the decaying wood versus the new life, the smooth leaves and the like. Doing something like that in your image, finding that, to me, it just brings it to life, and it makes a very interesting subject because you've got so much going on between these subjects, and there's just that extra communication between them. If everything was bland and the same, you didn't have contrast in the textures in this case, I just don't think it would be as exciting of an image. And so we found a subject and we're going to emphasize that, and we're going to be able to celebrate that. Another thing we want to think about too is the colors. With the darker colors, the lighter colors, the warmer colors, the cooler colors, all these things are coming in together to play their role in enhancing the contrast, and it just makes the image just really, I think, come together, and it's going to be really powerful. So before we wrap up this scene, actually, I thought of one more thing I really wanted to just throw in as a little bonus idea here, and that is to just talk about what these camera settings are. You know, I have the the polarizer filter on there to help accentuate the greenery and take out some of the reflection in the window. So that's going to work really well. But you know, this item here, all the way back to here, that's in the neighborhood of maybe 8, maybe 9 inches. And that's a significant amount of depth here. And I do want to make sure everything is in focus. The fact that I'm at a wide angle lens, roughly 20 millimeters, between 16 and 20 millimeters is what I'm shooting at right now. That helps because you get a long depth of field with a short lens, but I'm also going to be shooting in the neighborhood of f8 to really accentuate that depth of field. That also makes the shutter speed a little long, so I just got to be careful. I'm balancing all of that. Those are things that are in my mind. Yes, I love the texture and all that good stuff, but if I can't get the science right with the numbers, you know, the image is going to fail, and we don't want that. So it's just adding to the idea of all that stuff that goes on in your mind to bring that shot together and what we're looking for here. I'm just really, really loving this shot. And if you'll notice, I took my hat off. It's really hot and humid. You can see, you know, the rain, we'll call it, falling on me and collecting on my shirt. But this shot is, as I zoom in, just move subtly, move around. To me, this is like heaven on earth when it comes to shooting, because I just really am loving this subject. So glad. I mean, we've probably walked maybe 1.5 miles or more from the ferry to get here. And now the sun is coming out just a little bit. As long as it comes just a little bit, I'll be okay. I don't want a whole lot of sun. It'll just create too much contrast in the light. But this is really exciting for me. I'm going to shift this now. Actually, I'm going to go vertical. And try and capture more of that doorway. And so I've got that greenery coming up from the bottom that provides a really great foundation. I still have that one coming in from the side that is just invading the scene and saying more or less, look at me, because that's the most important thing in this shot. And then, of course, the stage, which is all this wonderful, luscious goodness. But I want to emphasize this even more. So I'm actually going to move the camera a little more over. And then I'll probably have to make a decision in post later, because this totally changes the dynamic of the scene. Because what I had before, this vertical line was pretty much in the center, and that was the dominant element. And now that I've moved it off to the side, it's still there. I haven't cropped it all the way off or nothing, but it's still there. It's really changed the dynamic of the scene, and now I've got a whole bunch of negative space down there in that part of the door. And it's still a great scene. So it's hard to explain exactly how that affects for me. It's just that I really like the emphasis of that live element coming down, and it has become the main part of the image when I made that subtle movement.
All right, taking it back up here in the studio, I wanted to take a look at a few of the images here, but also I wanted to say, you know what? There's another little snippet of a video I wanted to show you, and that is, I was telling you in Hong Kong just how much I loved this shoot, how much I was really engaging and just really thinking that it was all coming together. But I also did a video where I printed this image in my printing course called Master Photo Printing, and let me just show you that little snippet. Basically, this is me reacting to the first time I've actually seen this whole image in print. And so I decided I liked this one at 1.2 on the radius and 240 pixels per inch. So that's what I ended up doing on this one. And this, the first time I'm actually seeing this image, that is absolutely gorgeous. Whenever I see a good print, I kind of have an emotional reaction, and I just am absolutely loving this image. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm just so thrilled to have this image work out. I'm at a loss of words. It's absolutely beautiful, and the detail is coming out gorgeous. The colors are just right where they need to be. And it is everything I thought it could be when I was standing there
soaking wet because I was so dripping wet there because of all of the heat and the rain there in Hong Kong. And then to have this image come out the way this is just marvelous. I'm absolutely loving it. And that's one of the reasons I just love this craft. It really has a good strong presence, and it's just I just need to quit talking because I'm gonna just bore you to death with nothing because I can't put it into words. It's lovely, and I'm really happy that this came out the way it did. It's exactly the way that I wanted it to come out. It's looking perfect.
That reaction is the kind of thing that I look for in my photography. Certainly, I want to have some kind of really awesome connection to the work that I'm creating. And of course, hopefully, I can extend that connection to my viewer. It really helps, though, for sure, when I'm the one there. As I kind of mentioned in that printing video, there was just so many things about how it all just came together. It all just worked out. It all just ended up working out really, really good. All right. So let's now take a dive into some of the images here and what exactly we're looking at. I've got a lot of copies here. The reason I got a lot of copies is all of these different print sizes are actually here in Lightroom right now. I don't usually do that, but anyway, they're still here. This is the raw file. And so when I go to the raw file and I bring that up full screen, we can see for the most part, the straight image coming through in the print. But what happened was this is the actual image that I used as a master, I should call it, that I printed from. So this TIFF file it has all of the different changes in it. So let's go ahead and open this up in Photoshop and take a look at what's going on here with this image. Now we've got a few layers coming in with this. We have the base image coming in from Photoshop, or excuse me, we have the base layer coming in from Lightroom. This is exactly from Lightroom, all the resolution coming into the image. But then I've got this layer here. It says it's a background copy. Well, what am I doing on this layer here? Let's go ahead and take a look really quick at this layer mask. This is what I want. And we can see where it's being applied. So I'm going to zoom into those items and we can see what I did in those areas on this layer here. And I'll just kind of walk you through exactly what I did with this image. So let's get back here to this, and we're going to focus on the window frame just because that was an area that's easy to look at. I'm at 100% view, so that's pixel for pixel on the resolution that this monitor is. And when I turn this off, we can see a very subtle kind of a sharpening effect coming in. So this is a high pass layer applied in Photoshop. And so what you do is you go up to filter, you go down to other, you go to high pass. This is after you've made a copy of the layer. This effectively is the same thing as doing a clarity adjustment, or in this case, because I have it so limited to because of the layer mask, it's limited to certain areas of the brush. It's like doing a brush mask in Lightroom and setting clarity to it. So yes, if I were to do this image today, I would likely do 90% of what I got going on here in Photoshop, if not more. I would just simply do that in Lightroom. But that's just a difference in my workflow changes as I've grown as a photographer over the years. But we still have this going on. All right, so here I have another HP67, it says. And so most of this is actually showing up because the white reveals in the mask, in the layer mask. And so when we look at this, we can see though it's a 40% opacity on the overall layer opacity. So while it's showing through, it's not punching through like mad. So if I were to take this all the way up, we can see how strong that gets. And so this is as if we were to do a really strong clarity. The thing I like about the control we have in Photoshop is I set that to 67 pixels. So I had a really large effect going on. We don't have that control. We only have a slider in Lightroom for clarity. So already I'm thinking, you know what? There are just some things you can still only do in Photoshop if you're looking for a specific result. But then because of this layer mask, I'm restricting how it behaves down here at the bottom. So what's going on out at the bottom? Well, I've got this greenery down here. I did not like, let's cancel out this mask. I did not like how that affected the greenery down here. So I then went and put in these items, the little bit of gray on the layer mask so that it would knock it back a little bit. I then have what I call light shaping. So here's some custom vignetting and then some custom brightening of some areas. So these little areas that we see here, I'm just going to emphasize and brighten just a little bit. Again, in today's workflow, I probably would have done all of this in Lightroom as best as possible anyway. The end result is a final file that has all of the resolution, and then I go and I would make a print. I would size it, flatten it, size it, and then make a print out of it. Well, this isn't about the print. I just wanted to show you, okay, I've done some work in Lightroom. Here is kind of finishing it off. To get to that print, I had the vision of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to emphasize, and what I wanted to bring out. And then, of course, it's all about making that happen here in Lightroom and Photoshop, and this is how it ended up happening. Let's take a look now at some of those other pictures, and then we're going to kind of also be thinking about just the whole notion, the whole nature of what it is that these images mean, what they do. And this is, of course, a post-production appeal. So if I were to do the keyboard shortcut here, Shift-Tab, to make this all, bring this larger into the frame, we can do that, and we see more of the image. All right, so I talked about, these lines. I talked about the emphasis of texture, the idea of color, the idea of all these different contrasts. We have so many of these things going on. This is a very chaotic image, but that is also what I think is beautiful about this image. That's what I think is bringing some magnificence to this image. I use that polarizer to really tone down those green, the reflections, the glare that was coming off of the leaves, and it really made them rich. And we have those contrasting elements from the decaying metal, the decaying wood, and a little bit of wood and whatnot in some of these areas, but mostly it's metal. And there's just some, there's just some huge level of visual interest that I have in a scene like this. And it's just super exciting when it comes together and when it comes to the vision that you have when you're out in the field. All right, I'm just tabbing through now. So this is the original raw image now, not the original raw, the raw with processings. Of course, back here to what I did in Photoshop. All right, so I'm going to go through now. I don't see the film strip on the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and tap that button so we can see the film strip. And I also had done some vertical shots. I had mentioned too in the field I was going to zoom in a little bit. I really liked the zoom back appeal because it just gave me everything. It gave me a sense of place. When we zoom in like this, we're then paying attention to the individual pieces and the individual elements. Not that this is a bad framing, or, I want to get rid of this thing down here like anything, but not that this is a bad solution here. Let's get rid of that. It's just, it has a completely different meaning, a completely different effect. The geometry, the natural form, all of these things have a different meaning because they're taken into a different context now. But as we kind of mentioned in the field, it's all about the lines, it's all about the texture, it's all about the colors. These things are huge in this image, and it's how they play together. So if this subject could be about something else as I zoom in, then maybe I would like this image for a different reason. But I'm still in that mode of thinking lines, texture, contrast, and the primary image that is more chaotic for sure. The primary image still, to me, it still reigns supreme. This one is straight out of camera, so I haven't done the processing on it yet. You'll remember I did the vertical image, and then I say, you know what? I'm going to step to the side a little bit. I'm going to bring that item over, and of course it's a little bit crooked and whatnot, but I'm going to bring that item over in the frame, and then I'm going to be able to place a different emphasis. I also have this negative space down here so we can see what I was talking about when I was there in the field. I certainly like this, but I still think this framing is actually a little bit stronger. And let me talk about the reason why. Could be, I think I've done a little bit of processing on this already, so I've straightened up the edges and things like that. But the biggest thing, the largest reason I like this image over the other one is the negative space that comes up between here, between the leaf and between that door frame. That is night and day difference for me between that image and this image. I certainly appreciate the negative space here, but I really miss the fact that we don't have it here now. If I could have noticed that in the field and then brought that back a little bit, so I have a little bit of separation here, then I think I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't like it overlapping, I don't think. And I really hate the fact that it's just kissing the edge. That is a visual distraction. There's tension that is created there that I don't want the viewer, you and me and whomever else is looking at it, I don't want the viewer to get sidetracked. I don't want them to get caught up in something like this that is a visual distraction, that is just an anomaly of sorts, a compositional anomaly. I might still want to crop this a little differently. I've got some potential issues down here, but a vignette can probably deal with that. I like the form, the line that's coming down in here. But yeah, overall, like I mentioned, for me, this is the one. This is the thing that captures it all and communicates everything I wanted to communicate about this scene. All right, so that's it for today's lesson in lines, and then we dove into the idea of textures and contrast as well, all coming to us from a fantastic journey in Hong Kong, and then, of course, looking at the idea of the print and how beautiful that just came out. Still, love it. And now you've got the story behind the image. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I invite you to stick around and take a look at the next stuff I have coming up, where we're going to have some more coming from Hong Kong, and then just some more stories, more images, more good stuff coming to you from these various places, all with the point of trying to learn what it is that makes these images work. Why do they work? What is it about them that is just coming together and saying, yes, this image is a good image? So as we try and study those things, hopefully you'll be able to learn and you'll be able to apply some of these principles to your shooting when you're out there in the field. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that like button. And I would love to see a comment. Let me know what you think. I would love to have a conversation there in the comments section, and let's hear your feedback. I would love to know what your thoughts are and what your questions are. All right, thanks so much. Until next time, God bless and happy shooting.